he would be there wouldn't even be an engineer in the studio with us. It would just be Prince at the controls, and he would be singing the parts to us and have his fingers right on the red button ready to record. And he would sing ba da ba da 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 da. Okay, you guys got it? You ready to go? And we would record it right there.
And my next guest, I'm really excited. We've been a fan of his musicianship for many, many years, going back to the late 80s, mid 80s, actually. He toured with Prince and the Revolution. He's recorded with Prince and the Revolution. Also, there's too many to name who he's been in the studio with. Jill Jones, George Clinton, Shaka Khan, Miles Davis, and we'll talk about Miles in just a moment. But he is also great friends with Eric Leeds, his longtime friend in the horn section with Prince. We welcome all the way. He's got a brand new book called Mind, Body, Trumpet, Mr. Matt Atlanta Bliss, Blistan. That's a mouthful there.
Yeah. It's a long one.
Yeah. So listen, I got to ask you, first question off the bat, who has more vinyl records in their collection, you or Eric Leeds?
Oh, no, Eric has probably triple what I have.
Oh, okay.
Way back. Yeah, he's definitely the historian.
Yeah, every time I see him cut it, we've had Eric on the show a couple times, but he's always got the backdrop with the vinyl, and you've got it there. Yeah.
Yeah, him and his brother are just incredible. No music inside and out history. Definitely.
Right.
They win.
Yeah, Alan goes back to James Brown and working in radio, right?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. He was a manager. He was our manager with the bands that we had with when I played with Eric in Pittsburgh. We had On the Corner and Taking Names, and Alan was our manager, and he helped us get gigs and really develop our musicianship with the band, and it was a great influence, of course.
Well, we'll talk about those gigs live when people actually went to go see bands at clubs and stuff like that. Really? 70s and 80s. What was it like back then? How big were some of these bands?
The bands that we worked with?
Yeah.
Well, we were the biggest bands and the most well-known bands in the city of Pittsburgh and actually Western Pennsylvania, Ohio. We went as far as we played Detroit and played Cleveland a lot, and I guess we didn't go too far to the east. But it was we did travel a lot, but mostly based in Pittsburgh, and we're the number one band in Pittsburgh, dance band.
Well, what kind of music back then? R&B and funk?
Oh yeah. We played Earth, Wind and Fire, Kool and the Gang.
Yeah, gotta have them in the repertoire.
Yeah, and all those Average White Band. Those were the bands that we played.
Right.
Tower Power.
Right. Yeah, some great music. Yeah, we've had the Average White Band. We had a member of the group. Yeah. So talking about Duquesne in Western Pennsylvania and meeting, is that where you met Eric Leeds? You were in school together?
It is. We went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, together.
Okay.
Eric was in the performance side. I was in the education side, so I ended up with an education degree. I used it at I taught at Georgia State University for a little bit, and some high schools and things like that, but never really got into the. I've been teaching trumpet since forever and ever and ever, but privately, but never got into doing into a school 100% because I always wanted to play.
Were you guys roommates, or were you commuting to school?
No, I was commuting. Eric also, I believe, was commuting too. He lived in sort of the Oakland-ish side of town, which is that's the performance, and that's where all the artists are. And I was out in the South Hills, so we're pretty distant, but we played in Pittsburgh and all the clubs and everything together, so mileage didn't matter.
Yeah, that's right. And with all the passion you have
Oh
for
yeah,
music, yeah.
yeah.
Now choosing to go into music back then, what was a music school like? I've got a friend who I worked at Fairfield University for almost 30 years, and my friend still runs the music department there, Brian Torf, and
Mhm.
I made the comment to him because the music department's rooms are in the basement of a dormitory, and I said, "They gotta give you a better high visible spaces." "No, we like it down here." What was it like at Duquesne?
Well, Duquesne, I think there was 3 floors, and there was practice studios on each of them.
Mhm.
Especially on the second floor, it was the 5 foot by 8 foot practice room with a piano stuck in there and a music stand, and you're in there for 10 hours a day, just practicing scales and doing all that. And it has the little window in the door, and people
Yeah,
peeking in and seeing who's playing all the time, and how high you can play and how loud you can play, and
right.
how much you can disturb the person next to you.
How was it taking other courses while you were involved in music, which I'm sure that was your most fun. How was it with the other courses?
Um, I think questionable because
Uh-huh.
we I guess I was an education major, so I did have to take like physiology and English, and luckily I didn't have to take any math. But
Okay.
those type of classes that you shake your head and say, "Why am I taking this?"
Right, right. How many years? A 4-year program?
Yeah, I was in 4 years.
Okay. And then after those 4 years, when was your first professional gig? I mean, I guess gigging in the clubs was a gig.
Oh
Playing
yeah,
gigs, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Actually, Eric and and even I worked with bands even before Eric, and all during college. And right after I got out of high school, I started gigging in clubs and
Mhm.
playing with different bands, show bands, stage bands. We did a lot of road gigs and uh, traveled. Well, mostly around the East Coast.
Mhm. You played Philly?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
remember what clubs we played, but we played. Yeah, played that.
yeah. Yeah, I went to Temple for a couple years, so I was there 85 to 87. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Eric Leeds, you guys were cemented as great friends there, and of course, he had the connection with his brother managing tour manager for Prince.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Oh, go ahead.
No, we played in a band with Alki Stereopoulos Quintet, uh,
Oh, okay.
and we played a lot of the hospitality inns and things like that. It was um, a real great learning experience. That's when Eric and I really started getting together and with playing together as I guess, a horn section.
Mhm.
And so we played everywhere from Detroit to into around New York and all the way down into Florida. We played a lot of hospitalities in Indianapolis. We played around the 500 when they had the Indianapolis 500. We played there. That was just an amazing time and opportunity that we got to see the 500, which big car
Oh.
fans.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It was a lot of fun.
right.
So yeah, and then we we played with Elke, and then we came back to Pittsburgh and we started our own band on the corner, and that was a 10-person band, and we had 4 horns in that.
Oh,
And with
yeah,
taking names after that, it was just Eric and myself. And
okay.
then after taking names, I started my own band called the Parker Brothers, and
Mhm.
Eric went with a band called with a musician, a singer named Billy Price. And
Okay,
Billy Price is a great. He's a staple here in Pittsburgh. In fact, he's still singing and doing a great job. He's a R&B blues singer and just incredible musician, and always has great musicians with him. So Eric was doing that at the same time that I had the Parker Brothers, and then he eventually went to work with Prince, which was another story I'm sure you've heard before. And
right,
Prince or Eric at one time was living with us right before he won Prince. He went up there, and he was played the back end of the Purple Rain tour, played
right.
solos and things.
Mhm.
And he called me one day and he said, "Hey, you're booked tomorrow for an audition with Prince." And I said, "What?" I said, I've played in 6 months now.
Right. Yeah.
So he said, okay, well, I said, okay, well, let's do it. And went up and talked to my wife, and I said, should I do this? Because I hadn't played. And
Right.
she said, this is what you've always wanted to do. So yeah, go ahead and do it. So I went downstairs, got my trumpet, and oiled the valves, and said a lot of prayers, and said, okay, if it's to be, it's to be. And Eric called back in about an hour and said, hey, I'm sorry, it's off. And I said, well, ain't nothing happened. It wasn't meant
Right.
to be. And he said, no, and it's not an audition, it's a recording session. I said,
Wow.
oh, recording session, Prince. And I haven't played in
Right.
6 months. So yeah, that ended up being, and I went up there, and we ended up doing the mountains. We recorded mountains with the band, and that was
So
my.
where Paisley Park wasn't built then? Where did you record that?
No, we were in the warehouse, which I'm
Okay.
sure we've heard stories about the
Yeah.
warehouse.
Oh yeah. 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 Dwayne Tudall's book really in depth about those
Yeah,
days.
yeah, it was just a big warehouse, and he had a studio in there, and Susan Rogers was the engineer that was doing the sound recording everything in the back, and we
Mhm.
had the big Altec Lansing speakers pointing towards us for monitors, and I don't know how she did it, but it was
Yeah.
just amazing, the product that she got out. It was just incredible.
How was he at that point in his career as far as recording? Was he demanding like multiple takes? Because we hear he just that's it. It's good. We go fast.
Yeah, I don't think there's a thing. I don't think he could say multiple takes, and that's not his repertoire.
The fans would want to hear that, but yeah, we heard
No, everything was like, yeah, this is it. Let's do it.
right. Yeah.
Well, you probably and probably the fans have heard uh, when we recorded Power Fantastic. That was in his house before Paisley Park was built, and we recorded that. And you probably heard him speaking live on that.
Yeah, like the instructions before, right?
This is the first take, and we might do several takes after this, but it never was. He used the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pure genius, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let
Yeah.
let me let me ask you as a trained musician, reading music and everything like that, working with I guess Prince didn't read music, but working with people different backgrounds like that, how do you gel, or is there not a problem?
Well, it was I guess two scenarios: one in the studio and one
Mhm.
out of the studio. One in the
Right,
studio, Eric and I have probably worked with Prince most in the world than anybody, because he can play guitar, bass, drums, vocals, all the
right,
keyboards and everything, but he can't play trumpet and sax. So he called us up a lot to play in the studio, which there's still a lot in the vault that's hasn't been released, and I guess maybe someday will be.
right.
But yeah, Prince did not read music, but that's how I was brought up. And of course, Eric was brought up like that too, in the with music school.
Mhm.
But Prince wasn't. But he would be. There wouldn't even be an engineer in the studio with us. It would just be Prince at the controls, and he would be singing the parts to us, and have his fingers right on the red button, ready to record. And he would sing ba da ba da 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 da. Okay, you guys got it. You ready to go? And we would record it right there.
Right,
So it wasn't anything about writing it down. I would have to sketch some things down every once in a while, because I don't have as great a Eric has a great memory. Like all the other musicians in the band are like self-trained, the street players. So you sing them something, they're playing it and they're remembering it. Now I
right.
have to my the thing that I do is I sort of scratch things down, and it helps me remember. And if we do change things, and I can change things right there. But yeah, that's the difference between, I think, the different types of players.
Right.
The kind that go to music school and write things down. The other people that just pick it up and can go it and remember it. And that's how the rest of the band was. I had to sketch things down, but that was par for the course back then. That's what I did.
Did he give you a little bit of leeway to improvise, like, some of the tours with the horn parts, the interludes and everything like that?
You mean improvise?
Like, little sections that you and Eric performed, did he let you kind of make up your own stuff, or was he hands-on saying, I want it exactly like this?
He would when we would do tour rehearsals, he would be singing parts to us,
Okay.
and we would be playing them back and working them out. The thing that Eric and I think we worked well together that we could sort of interpret what Prince wanted. Sometimes, we would play a unison line that he would want, and sometimes we would say, "No, we really think he wants that harmonized." And
Okay.
then Eric and I could pretty quickly harmonize things together or change up a little bit of the rhythm or something, and it was always pretty satisfactory with Prince. If it was very close, most of the times it was right on with what Prince wanted, but we would have to change the tessitura to our own instruments, to trumpet and sax, because he would sing us parts, and sometimes they'd be too high for the trumpet, but it would fit right for the sax. So we would switch our ranges around a little bit and change harmonies up a little bit. So we would work with what Prince would give us.
Hmm.
It was a little harder in the excuse me, a little harder in the future, I guess, when Prince had a bigger band, when he
Yeah.
had a lot of horns. You really
Hmm.
can't do that right on the spot.
Right. Right.
It's hard to arrange on the spot with 4 or 5 or 6 horns. But with the two of us, with Eric and the background that we had and the experience we had together, we could do it pretty quickly and keep Prince happy because he wanted to move along. He didn't have time to. He was already thinking of the next line. He's singing
Right.
one. He's already in another part of the song.
Yeah. Speaking of moving along, I mean, a tour, I mean, double CD, double album, Sign of the Times, my all-time favorite from Prince, and you were a big part of that. And the tour, moving along, you guys did Europe, and then all of a sudden decided we're going to make a movie out of it. We're not going to tour the States.
Yeah.
As a member of the band, were you disappointed with that you weren't going to do the tour? Or?
Yeah, actually, it was so cool because working with Prince, I saw a lot of Europe. I would get on when we would have a day off or something. I get on a tour bus. I'd ride around London or ride around Paris or wherever in Germany,
Mhm.
even in Japan, and got to see the country and talk to some of the people. And I was really looking forward to experiencing that in the States and maybe doing a tour bus. We hadn't done a tour bus because over there we flew everywhere. We flew from city to city in Europe, so I was looking forward to it. But he wanted to do the movie. I think he was ready to move on, to the Lovesexy era.
Right, right. And the interesting thing about the Sign of the Times movie was, I guess, something wasn't right. The video synced up and everything, and you guys redid the scenes at Paisley Park. Great job of you guys putting the effort and looking like it was a real live show. Yeah. How time frame? How long did it take to complete the actual performances for that at Paisley?
Um, I think we might have been a couple weeks
Okay.
that we had done. Stage shots, close shots that they I guess they had, and when we initially did the live concert. But yeah, after that, it was wow.
Yeah. You still go back and revisit some of the movie, or?
Every once in a while, I like on the tag of the end of it with a beautiful night. That's
Oh yeah.
that's really of course, that's what we did with every show that we did. We ended up with beautiful night,
Mhm.
and that was you never knew what was going to happen with that. Most of the tour, the show, only about 75% of it was pretty well synced in. He would
Mhm.
always change transitions or maybe even change a song in or out. But Beautiful Night, that was his time to play a little bit, and the end. And he would have all his hand signals
Yeah.
and audio calls, and you really had to keep. Of course, you always kept an eye on Prince when you were on stage
Right.
with him. Being a musician, you always kept an eye on him because you never knew what he was going to call or change up. Because sometimes in the middle of a song, he would change some things up. So
Mhm.
the Beautiful Night, that was uh, that was always a challenge to end the show with, but it was always a lot of fun.
How difficult it is as a horn player jumping up and down of course, Prince required, yet pretty much doing everything Wallace, rather than standing still. Is that difficult playing your instrument?
Well, Prince, he never required Eric and I to do a whole lot of jumping up and down and dancing. Uh,
Okay.
I'm not the greatest dancer,
Well, you guys had some moves in there. You guys were shaking a little bit.
a little bit, but I didn't even grow up with marching band. Our
Oh,
band
okay.
director uh, didn't believe in marching band, and he said, if you want to march, join the army.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's almost the scenario that I always grew up with too. That if you're a musician, you're standing there and you're playing your instrument,
Mhm.
and you can't. And this is with the embouchure right here. You can't be moving around because your mouthpiece will move around, and then
Right.
you start missing notes. So you either almost stand still or you
So
don't play.
bad notes come out. Yeah. Did you ever split the lip playing trumpet?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
long does it take to recover for something like that?
Well, I never split it really bad that it was like a week or something. But sometimes, if you play so much, in fact, that's one of the things in my book that I talk about. We
Mhm.
would play for production rehearsals. We would practice like 14 hours a day, and that's just ridiculous for a trumpet player because it just I have this right here. That's how you make the notes right here.
Right.
It all
Okay.
vibrates right here. And towards the end of production rehearsals, I started missing notes, and I thought maybe my water key in my trumpet was leaking air or something. And then after I thought about it, no, it's not. That's not the trumpet. It's me.
Mhm.
And it's me because this is your embouchures right here, but you need all
Okay.
these facial muscles up here. And this is what I talk about in my book
Mhm.
that you really want the facial muscles here but not when you practice so much. This turns into basically a piece of meat, and it won't
Oh.
vibrate, and you start missing notes. So
Mhm.
what you want is this really flexible, and this all strong. That's how you get all your high notes and your longevity that you can play, and that's what I have in my book about a lot of flexibility things, isometrics. There's some things in there with finger isometrics that I do actually end up doing with two hands. And there's breathing in there, things about breathing and about uh, reading music. And it's something that I started about 15 years ago, the book. And
Mhm.
it's really to help trumpet players out. But Prince fans seem to like it too because I had Prince things in there, pictures, and you can get
Right.
an autograph. And,
Yeah, we've got right behind me right there. We got the book Mind Body Trumpet, and people can order it. Give us the places where our
yeah.
viewers can
Well,
purchase it.
yeah, at this point, I'm doing it myself. It's atlantabliss.com.
Okay.
And you can go on there and order the bok there. And there's
And you
even
can get an autograph, right?
and you can personally autograph it for you.
Right, right. Tell me about Reverend Fred Shaheen in there.
Yeah, Fred contacted me. Well, actually, several years ago.
Mhm.
He was a writer and interviewer, and he called me up, and he is an Eastern Orthodox priest, and he was having a seminar not from where I am living. And he said, hey, I'm a Prince fan and I'd like to come over and speak with you. And so he came out and hung out for a long time, and we talked about Prince and everything, and turned into great friends. And it turns out that he ended up interviewing me, uh, I guess maybe a year or so later. And it was an interview that was pretty extensive. And so I asked him after this, it sort of would be very cool to put into my book. So we've interspersed the interview in the book
Mhm.
with different parts here about my history of how I grew up with Barrick and then the bands we had played with, and went all the way through Prince and Meeting Miles and Winton and all those things. And so it gives the book a little bit of uh, more than just a trumpet method book. I think it's a little more adds a little more interest in it because it has some things and stories about working with Prince, and it's a lot of color. It's colorful, I think.
I've got to ask you this because I'm not a musician. I only could play on the piano when the Saints go marching, and that's it. I I never had the discipline to keep at it. How did you get that, focus and staying determined like that and not losing your focus and giving up? For a younger musician,
Yeah,
what do
yeah.
you recommend?
Well, I don't know. My parents, they never really had to make me practice. It was just
Okay.
something that that I wanted to do, and at that time, I was playing sports and everything like that. But it seemed like this was more um, uh, easier for me to do.
Mhm.
And practice, it was just something that I would do. Come home from school and you practice for a half an hour, and then go out and play baseball and football with my friends and things. And they all knew that, so they didn't call me up and say, "Hey, let's go out and play. Let's start a game." I'll be out when I'm done practicing. It was just
Mhm.
something that I love to do, and I think it is something that is uh, when you get the when you get that something in your heart that says, when you study and it doesn't make you study. My parents never had to make me study, and you just something you did. It's part of you.
Yes. And it seems like you had a really supportive parents throughout
Yeah,
the years. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your family growing up.
yeah. Well, my mother sang a little bit, and my father played guitar a little bit. He says that he played the radio. So yeah,
AM radio back then, right?
yeah, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my and they really helped me get into music. And I remember one time that my dad, um, we always played around Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
the bands with Eric and I, and he was at one of the clubs we were playing with, and I had played for many years, and I was standing at the bar with him on a break one time, and he said, "Is this?" And of course, it was a pretty dumpy dive that we were playing, but he said, "Is this what you really want to do the rest of your life?" And he never said, "No, don't do this." He said,
Right.
"Is this what you want to do?" And I said, "No, this isn't what I want to do. We want to take this to the next level." Of course, we were looking for record contracts back then, and
Right.
never expected that we would take it to the level that Eric and I eventually got to. And I said, "That's really, really, really where we want to go." And I guess they understood that, because he never said, "Hey, I'll get you a job being an accountant," or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, go from musicians, you did go into the business world, correct? After the
Yeah, I did.
Bliss days? Yeah. What kind of business?
Um, a company was GBU Financial Life. It was
Oh, okay.
a life insurance company, and um, I was there for, well, now I just retired a couple years ago, but I was there for 20
Hey,
years.
congratulations. Yeah.
Thanks. We started out, or we started when I joined the company. We were at our assets were at $300 million, and I was vice president of the whole company.
Wow.
And so $300 million, we ended up at $3.4 billion 20 years later. Just the growth was just incredible that we
Yeah.
had with it, and had a lot of fun with it. And uh, I never brought the Prince thing into it. I tried to
Oh,
keep.
really? They just knew if they found out it was on their own volition, right?
Yeah, they sort of did find out. And
Oh, okay.
my retirement party, I sort of came clean. I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to come clean now." And I brought out my records, my gold, platinum
Wow.
records and all that, and my Grammy and stuff.
Wow, you kept it close to the vest for that long. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
There was a few people that knew, but
Mhm.
yeah, I brought it out at my retirement party, and we had a lot of fun with it then. And uh,
Right.
yeah, it was a different world, of course, the business
Yeah.
world and the music world. But I thought it should be kept separate. And it was
And and
very good.
having such success in the corporate world like that, it's tough to give that up to go back into kind of the music business. I'm sure well that it's a little unsteady at times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even now, my friends are saying, "Hey," and they're still playing around Pittsburgh. They still have some great gigs around Pittsburgh, and they're the number one musicians in Pittsburgh, and they're
Mhm.
the almost the grandfathers, and they have the jazz gigs. And
Mhm.
well, I can't do it anymore. I live about 50 miles from Pittsburgh, and I did it for a
Oh,
while
okay.
when I came back and played a lot
Mhm.
of the gigs with my friends and things, but it just got to be too tough. I'm
Right.
driving and trying to miss the deer on the way home. On Saturday
I
night.
I retired right before the pandemic as a mobile DJ, and I know exactly what you're talking about. You're loading up your stuff and you're driving back at like 2, 3 in the morning, and exactly, you're looking out for, especially out where you are, you're looking for the deer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and of course, when we went back in the '70s, if you have a couple of beers or something while you're playing, and you don't worry about it too much. But then nowadays, and back in the well, even a few years ago, you have a couple of beers or something and get pulled over. Well, then your whole life is changing. So
yeah, yeah,
you don't need that either. So I said, I'll pass on the club
yeah.
thing. Going,
You got wiser, and it seems like you got a really happy life. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it's been a blast now being retired.
World-class musician, author, educator, and let's get back into something which I know is a huge, huge event for you. And you know, I sometimes record in the other room at our home, and the biggest, it's a huge print, is Miles Davis, a frame print, Kind of Blue, right in our living room. So, yeah, Miles Davis, tell us about growing up listening to him and then finally getting the chance to meet and perform with him.
Yeah. Well, of course, Miles is a mentor of mine, always has been since college and even before then. Grew up with the Kind of Blue album. And as I say, I can play all that stuff inside and out, every note, just about basically what Miles played. And but Miles had so many different concepts in music, with the Kind of Blue, and he even played the bebop stuff with Charlie Parker, all the way back to the Japanese Carta and Pangea, Electric Miles, and this quintet that he had with Wayne and Herbie.
Mhm.
And Eric and I have followed him and known all about his music and listened to his music inside and out. And he ended up being a Prince fan, And
Mhm.
when we were in the warehouse, when I joined the band, I heard that Miles was coming in to hang out with Prince for a minute. And he was going to come into the warehouse. So I made a point of being in the warehouse that day. And Miles did come in to the warehouse, and a door right beside me. I was sitting on a bar stool. He
Mhm.
came in right beside me. He walked up to Prince. Prince was playing drums at the time. He was recording a drum track, and he walked up and shook his hand. And Prince said, "Hang out for a minute." He said, "I'm going to finish this drum track, and then we'll go hang somewhere." And and Miles said, "Yeah, cool." And he came down. He sat on the bar stool right next to me. Miles Davis sat next to me.
Wow.
Like, this is
Yeah.
very cool. And then Miles put out his hand to me, and he said, of course, I have to do my dumb Miles Davis impression.
Right.
He said, "My name's Miles Davis." Gordon, like I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
said,
thought it
"Well,"
was somebody else. Yeah.
I said, I'm Atlanta Bliss. I'm Prince's trumpet player." And Miles said, "Oh, I like what you played in that last record." And Miles liked what I played. Miles doesn't like what anybody plays
Right.
like that. So I said, "Well, what was it?" And we, talked about it, uh, and talked a lot about what was Prince back then had always. We had all the gear for. I guess it was a parade tour, and
Mhm.
he had a Fairlight keyboard back there, and of course all the drum machines and a set of drums he was playing, and amplifiers and everything. He said, "What's that up there?" And I said, "Well, that's a Fairlight keyboard. That was one of the first
Uh-huh.
samplers that was out back then, and that was $30,000. Prince had two of them. Of course, one you had to have a backup for everything.
Yeah, right.
But, we were talking about that and the drum machines and all sorts of things. Um, and then he had dinner, I think, with Prince later. And I think Eric had dinner. Him and Alan had dinner with him too.
Mhm.
Several years later, right before the we did I'm sure the benefit concert at Paisley Park,
New
uh,
Year's Eve, right?
New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah.
And I heard that Miles was going to be there. I was on stage and just warming up, and this is the day during that day, and a guy came up to me, and it turned out to be a road one of the roadies that Miles had, and he said, "Hey, could you play Miles's rig, like for his trumpet? He had you clip on to his belt for his trumpet with a microphone and his
Mhm.
wireless setup." I said, "No, this is very cool. I can
Right.
play Miles's rig." So yeah, I did try it out, and actually ended up that mine was much better equipment than Miles had.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Some Sennheiser equipment, and he had some Nadia equipment. Nadia stuff is what wireless stuff is what a lot of guitar players back then had, and he had adapted it for the trumpet. And mine was the Sennheiser stuff, and Sennheiser actually came out when I was in Germany, and they helped me tweak it out, and it was one of the wireless. And now everybody has their wireless systems, but that was very cool back then. Well, that's what I told Miles. I said, you got to get some better equipment. He said, well, I'm my man about that. So I did. I don't know if anything ever happened about that, but yeah, that was my experience with Miles. And
Yeah, that was a great show, and hopefully there's
yeah,
it's been released. Was it released with the deluxe edition? Sign of
yeah,
the Time? Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I
What
think,
was it like jamming? I mean, it was, a little improv there with Miles, but and
yeah.
and he decided to walk off stage whenever he decided, right?
Oh, yeah.
It seemed that.
And to walk up and walk off. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He came, Eric, of course, we were playing Beautiful Night at the time.
Mhm.
And he came walking up on stage, and Eric and I just looked at each other and said, "Oh, this is just going to be amazing," because it was like a dream come true playing with Miles on stage.
Right.
We did the record with him. I think it was with Shaka, and but he wasn't at with us at that time. We did
Mhm.
it different times, so we never did it together. But yeah, he came walking up on stage, and Eric and I were just in heaven. That was something, a dream we hadn't even thought of, was playing with Miles on stage.
Do you ever meet his former bass player Foley?
I had yeah, met with Foley. Yeah, talked
Yeah.
with him lots of times, and yeah, he's a
Yeah,
great
we're friends with him. I tell you a quick story with Foley. He's lives out in Columbus, Ohio, and he drove like 8 or 9 hours to WVOF where I did my show. He had a 12-string acoustic guitar. His drummer just played on a wooden chair, and he had a female vocalist for 4 hours in the studio, and spun like live Miles Davis recordings, just like. And he drove back the same night. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he's quite a cat. Yeah, I
Oh
like.
yeah, I talked to him recently. Yeah, I guess he's working on some stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, tell him I said hello if you do
Yeah,
talk with
I will. You probably talked to him before I do, but yeah, whoever gets there first. Yeah.
him. Right.
Yeah. So let's move along to Lovesexy. And if I recall, Eric in the rehearsals, they were really arduous for Lovesexy. And they were at Paisley Park for the tour?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. You mean the studio recording?
The tour rehearsals.
Oh, to our production rehearsals.
Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah. They were at Paisley Park, and the Sign of the Times we did production rehearsals over in England. I think we did in Birmingham, but
Okay.
Love Sexy, yeah, we did that in Paisley Park. And I don't know if I'm sure you've been there, but the backstage, you can park a 747 back there, and that's what it was
Wow.
designed for. That you can fly your sound, you can fly the lights, and put in a giant stage, and that was just an amazing facility.
Now, Eric, well, I was getting to the point where he said during the actual concert tour, there was a point at one night, I guess Prince had the bed come up, and he didn't realize that was part of the show because he was so focused and the stage was so elaborate and big that, wow, there was a bed there all along. Did he ever say that?
I don't remember that.
I don't know. Yeah. You have to ask him.
He gets pretty off the wall sometimes.
Yeah, or I get off the wall. But yeah, I mean, you did a lot of recordings with Prince, and were you ever surprised something that you recorded with him in the studio, you had no clue what it was for, and then you heard the final product and you were like, wow, that's what that was for? Anything stick out?
Um, well, that's like 99% of the time
Oh wow, that
recording
much.
with him, that you didn't know what it was for, what album it was for, if it was for an album or it was just almost recreational recording for him, because he would just record every day. We would
Mhm.
have rehearsals during the day, say from band rehearsals from, I would say 10 o'clock to 4 or 5 o'clock during the day. And anything would go there if we were learning a new song or an old song or whatever. But that would be our normal gig. And then after that, Prince would go in the studio for the rest of the day. And a lot of times Prince would call us back and call Eric and I back and say, hey, I got some horn parts that I want you guys to play. So that was how a normal day would run without being on, tour or anything like that. We rehearsed during the day and then record at night.
So when was the last performance you did with Prince?
I guess in Japan, Lovesexy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, other than the graffiti bridge things, a little bit for the movie, and um, I think that was the last performance that we did together as a band. Other than after that, we recorded a lot in the studio,
Right,
but
right.
as a band, it was Lovesexy.
How was it, the comparison recording at Paisley Park as compared to the warehouse? Must have been a lot nicer, right?
Yeah, it was the real deal
Mhm.
in Paisley Park. It was the Prince had several drum rooms set up in this Studio A. And Studio A, there was several drum rooms set up, meaning that there was a live room. This is stuff like Phil Collins. Phil Collins had several different drum rooms. Also, there was a live room that was like had a stone on the wall, and then
Right.
there was another room that had was more compressed. That had like carpeting and soundproofing on the wall, and then there was an acoustic piano also that had its own area. And of course, Eric and I were but there was in Studio A, there was a giant room. There is the recording room that you could, put a choir in or something. That's how Eric and
Right.
I would record with headphones, and Prince would be he's behind the glass in the control room,
Mhm.
which is much different than we were when we played and when we recorded in the warehouse, because that was, Prince's in the back with Susan Rogers and singing us parts way in the back of the warehouse. And there wasn't glass, and it was just headphones to microphone to headphones. He was singing parts to us. So completely different. But yeah, somehow Susan, again, I don't know how she did it, but she made it work.
Yeah, I think I remember this before you were in the fold that there was, I think I forget, I think it was Computer Blue when he redid Computer Blue with 24 tracks on the machine, and he wanted to add more, and Susan said something like, "I only have 24." He says, "Well, find a way to get other tracks," and she had to get a whole different another 24
Yeah, another
track
machine.
console and patch them together, and
Yeah,
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 that was Dwayne Tudall. He's got all the information in there, so
yeah.
yeah, he talks to everybody. Great
So
guy.
yeah, you can back then you could lock the machines together, but it wasn't done that often.
Right, right. So he's ahead of his time. Yeah. I'll tell you a quick thing. Prince one time, a couple times he requested copies. Back then it was CDs of my radio show. We did a Prince special. I FedEx him to Paisley Park.
Cool.
I get an email from Prince. One of the times he said, I noticed on uh, Erotic City, the speed was just a tad off. And I asked a friend who co-hosted part of the show, "Did you notice any difference?" He said, "No." But who are we going to question the guy who wrote the song?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you
Oh,
keep in contact with a lot of other people you were in the band with during the Paisley Park days?
yeah, we had actually we just had a little reunion um,
Oh, okay.
in Minneapolis about I guess 3 or 4 weeks ago now,
Oh,
and
okay.
flew up there, and we had the it was at a bar up there, and we had the whole back area, and had drinks and food, and met with a lot of guys that I haven't seen in many years, and and gals too, because it was the office crew. It was a lot of the
Oh, wow.
staff. It was a lot of the techs. It was a lot of the uh, uh, band members, and it was we do try to stay in touch. Not as much as you might think, but it's good to hang out every once in a while and for the old talking about the old times. It really was like a family.
Yeah.
With Purple Rain, they really did start a family that really gelled from there, grew from there. And the
And
road crew hung together, and it wasn't like uh, the road crew was here and the band was here. We all
right.
did mesh together and had a great time on the road. You really are a family. I think there's on the road we had maybe 100 people to support 10 in the band,
Wow.
and so not everybody knew everybody and families and things like that, but we really did get along and had a lot of fun together.
How many outfits did you have for the Lovesexy tour?
You mean dress outfits?
Yeah, dress outfits, yeah.
Lovesexy, probably about 4 or 5.
You get to keep any of them?
Yeah.
Oh,
At
you
the
did? Okay.
at the end of the tour, they said, "Do you want these?" What are they gonna do 'em?
Oh,
But they put
okay.
Prince's stuff in the Cleveland Rock and Roll. They don't want my stuff in Cleveland Rock and Roll
Right,
Hall of Fame, but they took Prince's stuff, of course.
right.
Yeah, I have some of it.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was fun.
back then, it was like a factory. You had the clothing was on the second floor
Yeah,
making clothing and everything? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They made all the clothes. They first When I first joined the band, of course, I hadn't been in a band like that before, and been many, many, many bands, but never in a band that was really to that extent, that had a
Mhm.
wardrobe. And
Right.
someone that was actually a wardrobe person, she came to me and she said, "Well, how do you like your pants? Do you like them pleated or you like them straight?" And she said, what kind of clothes do you wear?" And I said, "Can I just wear a pair of jeans?" Obviously, she said, of course you cannot."
Right, right.
Let
You
anybody have a pair of jeans on
That
stage.
was in the jeans crew back then.
No,
No.
no.
No, I one of the songs you and Eric one of my all-time favorite, Prince songs, Jill Jones' "Violet Blue," you and Eric performed on that, weren't credited, but, you think it was just an oversight? So much going on that Prince didn't
I
have you
would,
on there?
I would suppose. I don't know. We never really looked at all the albums we were on, and probably don't even know a lot of the albums we were on. But uh, yeah, I guess that's part of the
Right.
business. Sometimes you get an acknowledgement, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, Jill was nice enough, this had to be like 15 years ago, came to the studio and performed for a couple hours with the project she was working on. It was just really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was
Did you
fun.
work in the studio with her, or was it just tracking with Prince?
Yeah, she was in the studio on and off when we were working. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I got a question. I've seen another picture of some gold records, some platinum records, a nice parade picture of Prince. Is that to your home, right? The gold
Uh,
records and everything?
Let me. You mean? I think I know the picture you're talking about. That's one in my book here. That has the is that my pool table that's in there too? Is that this picture you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
that's how I have my in fact that's my rock and roll Atlanta
Yeah.
Bliss picture there.
There you go. Yeah.
So
Plus,
yeah, that's my my basement or my trophy room that
right.
I'll put on my Grammy and the records and stuff in there.
How about getting those gold records sent? What's the process of a musician who worked on a record getting sent that, or was it usually a surprise something was coming?
It was a surprise. One time, every time like that, they would come to us in rehearsal or something and walk in with all these records and present them to us. It's very
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah. No one can take that away from you.
right.
Yeah.
My kids will like them for many years when I'm gone.
That's right. How
We'll
about, your
over them.
kids? Oh, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, they'll be battling over them, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's right. You haven't put them in the will yet? Who gets what?
I'll have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. So speaking about your kids growing up, were they into Prince after listening to him or just
Oh
into
yeah,
their own music? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Especially, um, well, especially my daughter. She knows and she's kept up with all the Prince things for many years, and she keeps me, somewhat up with things. And
Mhm.
she was a singer for a while, just around town. And then
Okay.
my son played trumpet, and I think he had more talent in playing trumpet than I ever did. But he got. I didn't want him to get into the music industry. You know, he's an accountant, has his own business here in Pittsburgh, and doing very well. My daughter ended up being an attorney for here in Pittsburgh also. So,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, but they're both very much into music, and they help me out. They say, hey, you should put this on your website, and this is a good video, and why don't you track this? There on my website.
Mhm.
I have a Spotify playlist on there with things that I play with Prince and other artists on there, and they suggest things. And I want you to put this on and put this video on, and yeah, they're very much into the Prince thing, especially since when Prince died. I don't know if you do. I got another minute yet?
Oh, we got time. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I was working for GB Financial Life, and we were out at lunchtime, and we were just at a diner, and my phone rings, and it was my daughter.
Mhm.
And she said, I got to tell you this, Prince just died. I said,
Wow.
you're kidding. And everyone, the guys I was with, my face must turn white or something. They said, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I said, well, just hang on a second. So we talked for a minute. We talked a minute with her. And then I hung up, and then I started researching it on the internet. And, obviously it did happen. And so she is the one that stayed on top, and she got me to do the Facebook, my Facebook page, Atlanta Bliss Facebook, and
Right.
also my Blistan Facebook, and they're really the ones that they enjoyed, and introducing me to, hey, this is Prince's trumpet player, and I don't do
Right.
that.
Right.
Even to we go to a restaurant and something somehow comes up, and she said, well, my dad played with Prince. I said, don't do that.
Yeah. The Prince,
Yeah.
really? Yeah.
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 But they always,
But
yeah, especially at a bar, that's a great place to introduce your dad at a bar,
yeah,
and
right.
it's nuts after that.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's just amazing that, Prince and the Minneapolis Sun, I mean, you were a huge part of that, when we're both long gone, it'll be like you're gonna be reading Prince, Minneapolis Sun, Motown, the
Oh,
you guys ladies made your mark and continue to make your mark. I mean, it's incredible for you to be a part of that.
yeah. Well, this
Yeah.
is this is what 30, 35 years later,
Mhm.
maybe more than that now. I don't know. And people still are friending me, friend requests for my Facebook page, and being this interview. Again,
Right.
this is 30, 40 years later, and people are still interested in what we did at that time. And that says a
Yeah.
lot for Prince. That says a lot for his stay power.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I mean, I could say that the interest from the Prince community definitely is really building for you, and people appreciate you going on the shows. I mean, you've been on several shows, some friends of ours, and always really interesting stuff. The background and what's been going on with your whole life. So I've enjoyed watching other shows, and this has been great talking, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. And and obviously, thanks for having me on, because it's after all these years, and people are still interested in what we had done with Prince, and as rightly it should. Prince was
Right.
an amazing, amazing musician. I've never worked with another musician like him ever,
Mhm.
and that he worked so fast in the studio and so diligently, and so just constant work. And talk about people ask how you get things done, and how you get to be like a Prince. Well, you don't get to be like a Prince just thinking about it. You work
Right.
you work your ass
Yeah.
off. That's what he
Right.
did constantly.
I mean, you sacrifice your family, your friends for him, his body and everything. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I guess that's the negative part, but what a life he lived.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he well
Yeah.
deserved for all the recognition that he got.
Yeah.
And
The, we used to go every year to the Montreal Jazz Festival, and we saw Prince, I think it was 2001.
mhm.
And the director of the Montreal Jazz Festival, they asked him, what's the best show you ever witnessed during plus 25, 30 years, however long the festival went? He said that year when Prince performed there, It was a show I was at. Me and my wife were in the second row with our friend JYT, and
Very cool.
he started the concert. The first half, it could have been for like an hour. Barely any light on stage. Back turned a la Miles Davis. Sometimes he was singing and wasn't even close to the mic. We heard what he was singing, and it was just totally. He did something innovative there, and it's also funny. A guy in the crowd, I guess he was expecting the glamour of the hits of Prince, yelled out like 30 minutes into the show, "Wake up!" And you could hear it all through. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great show. And they took an intermission and came back with the typical Prince lights, camera, action show. But
yeah.
There was an audio version of it on YouTube, but it wasn't that great quality. But yeah, definitely a great show.
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of my friends that are jazz musicians really do appreciate, especially since, Eric and I were on there, and we sort of pulled them into Prince because they didn't know from Prince. In fact, Eric and I didn't know from Prince when we joined them, but because we did that, they really appreciate the musicianship that Prince has because, what we told about him and how he works and his creativity. Prince, and all the recording that I did with him, he never, well, you and all the fans already know this, he never duplicated himself with the songs. He never he never repeated himself. He never did another Purple Rain because he wanted to have another big hit like Purple Rain. He went on and he did, symphonic things, and he did jazz sort of things, and he really experimented like Miles did. Miles went through, as we talked about in the beginning of this, all the way from bebop to electronics, and he wanted to get in. He did some of the hit things too. So it's really developing musicianship, and that's what I think a lot of the jazz cats liked about him too. You don't stand still; you always grow.
We got to remind our viewers one time before we head on off. The book, Mind, Body, Trumpet. Where can people pick it up? What can they expect in this book? I mean, some great stuff you can learn. Playing the instrument without playing it, right?
Yeah, that's really the focus of the book. Is I wanted to inform trumpet players that you don't have to sit in that practice room and blow your brains for 10 hours a day. You can do half of that in the university library, doing isometrics, doing finger isometrics, doing breathing, doing reading music without having your instrument in front of you. And it's atlantabliss.com is where it's at, and you can pick it up there, and even autograph it. Let me know who to autograph it to, and be glad to do it. Christmas is coming too. It's a great Christmas gift.
Yeah, there you go. And you ship it out. I gotta give you compliments because you are truly professional as far as communication, as far as once we connected back and forth, as far as answer here. You even gave me a little bit of a bio, which I knew pretty much everything in your bio, but it was great that you did it because I'm sure in the music business, things are said and things aren't followed up and stuff like that. So you're the guy. Musicians need to learn from someone like you on being on the case.
Well, I'm glad to pass it on. That's my duty, and as being an educator, that's where I grew up, being a trumpet teacher, and I like doing it. And how I can help other people. Hopefully, this book will help some trumpet players out there.
All right, one final question: are you a Steelers fan?
Of course.
Of course. Not a bad season so far.
Yeah, doing well. Of course, back in the 70s is when we're really big Prince fans. When you get together, and every Saturday, you're getting together with your family, and who's bringing what, and get the beer cold because we're having a party. And now it's not as much because we're spread out more. But Steelers. Yep, still go Steelers.
The steel curtain back then, right?
Curtain, that's right.
Yeah. I like Mike Tomlin, so I'm glad they didn't get rid of him or all that talk. There were a couple lean years. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been hanging around a lot of years.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, the Steelers, they're pretty consistent. They don't have too many coaches in their history, which is
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a New York Giants fan, so this has been awful. But anyways, I got to thank you, Matt, Atlanta Bliss, Blistan, and hopefully one of many times you can come back on the show whenever you want.
Anytime. Be glad to. Enjoyed it.
And everybody get the book, Mind, Body, Trumpet. Matt Blistan. And thank you,
Atlanta.
Matt. Yeah.
Thank,
AtlantaBliss.com. There you go.
yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, man.